Steph stood still for a moment, his heart heavy. He moved slowly, not wanting to scare the boy, and asked, "Are you okay, kid?" The boy, startled, tried to move away, but Steph continued calmly, "Hey, it's okay. I just want to help." What started as a gesture of empathy triggered a series of events that would change not only the boy's life, but also Steph's. What he did next would be remembered as one of the most moving and transfo. Steph Curry grew up in comfort, but always knew his reality was an exception. His parents, Del and Sonia, taught him from a young age to value what he had and help others whenever possible. "Use your uniqueness to make a difference," his mother used to say. As he rose to stardom in the NBA, Steph never forgot the lessons from his childhood. He got involved in social initiatives and often used his platform to amplify the voices of the underprivileged. However, that night, seeing the boy by the dumpster touched him differently. The boy was about 12 years old, with tired eyes, but still full of determination. When Steph asked his name, he replied, "Malcolm." The boy shared that he lived in a shelter with his mother and younger sister, but often had to look for food because there wasn't always enough for everyone. Malcolm's words affected Steph in an unexpected way. He recalled a story his mother told about his grandfather, who grew up in extreme poverty and never had the chance to escape his circumstances. "But you have a chance," Steph thought, looking at Malcolm. He decided he couldn't just give money or food and walk away. Steph wanted to understand Malcolm's story and somehow be part of the solution. "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Steph asked, already planning his next move. Steph took Malcolm to the restaurant he had just left, ordering a hot meal for the boy. As Malcolm ate, Steph struck up a conversation, asking more about his life. Gradually, the boy began to trust him, revealing that his mother had lost her job months ago and the shelter they were in was only temporary. Malcolm had simple dreams: to go to school without being judged for his clothes, for his sister to have toys, and for his mother to smile again. He had a maturity beyond his age, something that left Steph moved and saddened at the same time. After dinner, Steph asked Malcolm's mother for permission to take him to practice the next day. "Can he spend the day with me?" he said, explaining who he was and how he wanted to help. The mother, hesitant at first, agreed when she saw the sincerity in Steph's eyes. The next day, Malcolm was on the court, surrounded by the best players in the world. He watched practice with wide eyes, laughing as Steph tried to teach him how to shoot. For a few hours, he forgot his problems, feeling free and part of something special. But as the day came to an end, Steph knew that experience wasn't enough. He wanted to do more for Malcolm and his family. He began planning how he could use his resources to change their lives. Meanwhile, Malcolm clutched an autographed basketball Steph had given him and whispered to himself, "Maybe I can be someone too." That night, as Malcolm and his family returned to the shelter, Steph couldn't get the boy out of his head. He knew that giving gifts or making a symbolic gesture wouldn't be enough. Malcolm needed stability, opportunities, and hope to dream again. Steph decided to visit the shelter where the family was staying. When he arrived, he was shocked by the conditions. Dozens of people crammed into a small space with poor facilities. Malcolm's mother, Sharon, explained that she had tried everything to find a job but constantly faced barriers: discrimination, lack of resources, and the inability to leave her children alone. Listening, Steph thought of his own family and the privilege his children had. "This isn't fair," he said, looking at Sharon. "No one should live like this." He knew he needed to act quickly, but wanted to ensure his help would be meaningful and lasting. The next morning, Steph gathered his management team and explained the situation. He wanted to find a home for Malcolm and his family and ensure Sharon had support to get back on her feet. "I want them to have a real chance to change their lives," he said. While plans were being made, Steph spent more time with Malcolm and his team. During a training session, Steph discovered that Malcolm had a natural talent for basketball. He was quick, focused, and above all, resilient. "Have you thought about playing basketball at school?" Steph asked. Malcolm shrugged, explaining that he never had a uniform or proper shoes and didn't want to draw attention to his situation. Steph decided to change that. He took Malcolm to a sporting goods store, bought shoes and equipment, and encouraged him to pursue the sport. However, while Steph worked to transform Malcolm's life, he discovered something that complicated the situation even further. Malcolm's family was about to be transferred to another shelter, farther away, due to overcrowding. This would mean he'd have to change schools, erasing the little stability he had begun to build. Steph was outraged. How can we expect these kids to have a chance if we keep moving them like pieces on a game board? He knew he couldn't let this happen, and decided to fast-track his plans to ensure Malcolm and his family had a home before the transfer occurred. Simultaneously, Steph began receiving criticism on social media. Some accused him of doing charity to look good. These words hurt, but he remained undeterred. "This isn't about me," he responded in an interview. "It's about what's right." Malcolm, on the other hand, started gaining confidence. He returned to school with a new pair of shoes and a different demeanor. For the first time, he wasn't ashamed of who he was. When a teacher asked what he wanted to be in the future, he replied with a smile, "I want to be someone who helps others, like Steph Curry." Meanwhile, Sharon received news that a local company, inspired by Steph's actions, wanted to offer her a job opportunity with training included. She was overjoyed, but worried about how to balance the new job and caring for her children. Steph assured her he'd help find a solution, including access to daycare for Malcolm's younger sister. However, he knew something bigger needed to be done to ensure the situation wasn't just temporary. Then, during a press conference, Steph made an announcement that surprised everyone. During a packed press conference, Steph Curry stepped onto the stage with a serious yet determined expression. The journalists expected him to speak about an upcoming game or his career, but what he had to share was far more significant. "In the past few days, I've met someone who changed my perspective," he began. "Malcolm is an incredible young man who, like many others, faces challenges no child should have to face. He taught me that it's not enough to help just one person. We need to build systems that support families like his." Steph announced the launch of the Malcolm Project, an initiative dedicated to providing housing, education, and financial support for families in vulnerable situations. He pledged millions of dollars from his foundation and promised to collaborate with local organizations to create sustainable change. "This isn't charity," he said. "It's responsibility." The announcement was met with widespread acclaim. On social media, fans, celebrities, and fellow athletes praised Steph for using his platform for such a meaningful cause. But Steph knew the true measure of success would be in the results, not the applause. As the project gained momentum, Malcolm and his family became its first beneficiaries. They were given the keys to a new home in a safe neighborhood, with enough space for everyone to begin a fresh start. Sharon, overwhelmed with gratitude, said, "I never thought anyone cared enough to help us this much. Steph didn't just give us a home, he gave us hope." Malcolm, too, began to thrive. He returned to school with a renewed sense of purpose and joined a local basketball team, where he quickly stood out. More importantly, he began to see himself as someone capable of achieving great things. But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, Steph and Malcolm received news that shook them both. A few weeks after the Malcolm Project's launch, Steph received an anonymous email. The sender claimed to have grown up in circumstances similar to Malcolm's and wanted to support the initiative. They offered a substantial donation, but wished to remain anonymous. Steph shared the story with Malcolm, saying, "See, when you do something good, you inspire others to do the same." Malcolm, deeply moved, replied, "If I can do even half of what you've done for me, I'll be on the right path." However, challenges persisted. Critics accused Malcolm's family of taking advantage of Steph's generosity, which deeply upset Sharon. She worried their progress would be overshadowed by the negativity. Steph quickly came to their defense. During a live interview, he addressed the accusations head-on. This family isn't taking advantage of anything. They're showing what's possible when people are given the opportunities they deserve. If that bothers you, maybe you need to ask yourself why. Public support for the Malcolm Project surged. Local businesses stepped up to join the initiative, offering jobs and resources to families in need. The Malcolm Project was no longer just Steph Curry's endeavor. It became a community movement. Malcolm continued to excel in school and on the basketball court. At his first tournament, he held a participation certificate with pride and turned to Steph, saying, "One day, I'm going to do this for someone else." Steph smiled. He knew the real impact of his actions wasn't just changing Malcolm's life, but creating a ripple effect of empathy and transformation that would outlast him. Malcolm, the boy who once searched dumpsters for food, had become a symbol of resilience and hope. Through the compassion of someone who believed in his potential, his story inspired a community and proved that even the smallest act of kindness could spark extraordinary change.